Okay, let's go ahead and get started with prayer. If you bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for everyone gathered here today and that you know each of us by name and have caused us to walk with you. You promised us that when 2 or 3 are gathered, you are in the midst, and we welcome and celebrate you. We thank you for our speaker today, Dr. Heather Backstrom, and that she gives us great inspiration as she shares with us what you have placed on her heart to present to us. We also ask that you open our ears, minds, and hearts as we listen to our speaker and receive her message. May this gathering be a source of conversation where we may all be transformed. Thanks to everyone who took the time to put together this wonderful event. And all these blessings we ask in Jesus' name, amen. Now, before I bring up our speaker, let me tell you a little bit something about her. As a fellow alum and as Director of Alumni Relations, I always get a pleasure introducing our alumni and the great things that they do. Dr. Heather Backstrom is an accomplished executive coach, facilitator, and speaker. She is passionate about cultivating empowered women leaders, and she has coached and worked with women leaders in many industries, including finance, biotech, retail, municipalities, aerospace, and healthcare, as well as many nonprofits. She's done a lot. She was a member of the Forbes Coaches Council and wrote several articles about leadership and women in the workplace that appeared in the publication. Her background in corporate human resources is complemented by skills she developed through her years of improv classes, very interesting little note, at Second City, IO West, UCB, which is Upright Citizens Brigade, and BATS, Bay Area Theater Sports. She infuses applied improv principles such as yes and, deep listening, and embracing mistakes into both coaching engagements and workshops. Dr. Backstrom is also the author of the upcoming women's leadership book, Collaborative Confidence: How Women Leaders Can Activate Self-Awareness, amplify their authentic talents, and accelerate workplace change. She earned a master's degree in human resources development from Chapman University. And as I mentioned earlier, she is a Pepperdine GSEP alum with her EDD in organizational leadership. She enjoys traveling. She's floated on the Dead Sea, walked along the Great Wall of China, and has flown in a hot air balloon over Stockholm. So please let us all welcome our GSEP alum and our speaker for this morning, Dr. Heather Backstrom.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for that very, very warm introduction. Well, good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you. And I'll just, since it's at the top of my mind, Renee mentioned that I have walked on the Great Wall of China. That's because of Pepperdine, because one of our class trips when I received my doctorate, was to China. So thank you, Pepperdine. That opportunity came to me because of the university. So it is so beautiful to be with all of you today. I mean, the sky is blue, the sun is out, and what a blessing for all of us to be in Kathy's home and in this beautiful setting and to be here learning together and in conversation and community. I feel blessed. I hope you feel blessed. And in fact, would you turn to someone and just say to them, "You are blessed"? And turn to somebody else and say, "We are blessed." We are. We are blessed. So thank you for the warm welcome, and it just so fills my heart to be with a group of remarkable women. One of the things that Renee mentioned is that I'm very passionate about cultivating empowered women leaders. So anytime I get the opportunity to be with a group like all of you, extraordinary women, I absolutely jump at it because I get so much fulfillment and happiness from all of you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for filling my cup today. So as an executive coach, I help high-achieving women leaders take charge of their internal strength and power so that they feel more in control and more balanced. And today the avenue toward that is through our topic today, which is confidence. And our topic is collaborative confidence, strategies to amplify your authentic talents and expertise. And let's be in conversation today, so please feel free to ask questions along the way, to pose a thought. Definitely want to have all of us engaged in this conversation in this community today, because this patio is filled with wisdom, including all of you. So let's take a look at how we're going to spend our time. We are going to look at collaborative confidence. I like to think of it as your X factor when it relates to who you are in your leadership. We will also look at ways to build your confidence, to boost your confidence. We will also look at boosting and building the confidence of other women, each other. And we are going to take action today. So make sure you have a pen and paper handy. There's a handout at your desk, or your table. There's also pens there, so please be ready to take some action with taking notes throughout our time together. Let's begin. Collaborative confidence. So collaborative confidence is a term that I created, that I coined, and I trademarked that term. And what it means is I am responsible for my own confidence, and I'm responsible for helping other women with their confidence. So if you would just kind of let that sink in a little bit, that I am responsible for my own confidence, and I'm responsible for helping other women with their confidence. Do you sense that at the heart and center of collaborative confidence is this reciprocity? Is that standing out for you? That it's this mutual support. It's this enduring bond between women. And the reciprocity that we help each other. We help ourselves and we help each other. And I think as women, and hopefully you agree, that we shoulder so much, don't we? Whether it's at home, it's at work, in the community, we just carry a lot. And with the notion of collaborative confidence, it can ease that weight. You know, knowing that there's another woman in your corner who is amplifying you, who is helping you build your confidence, and vice versa. You're doing the same for her. So I'll give a bit of a background on how I came up, or the inspiration of the term collaborative confidence. It came to me through a couple of different angles. One is, as an executive coach, I'm so privileged and honored to work with so many wonderful women exactly like you, who are extraordinary what they do and who are kind and generous. And some things that I believe about women is, I believe as women, we like to be relational. Right? We like to be in community, to have a sense of belonging. And isn't that exactly what right now is all about? It's about community, it's about belonging, it's about being with each other. And even if it's just one other woman, right? It's that sense of, I have someone else in my life, I belong somewhere, I'm in community with one or more other people. So I believe that that's kind of at the nature and the essence of who we are as women. Also, I believe that women want to be seen as capable, confident, and self-assured, and we want other people to see us that same way, don't we? Right? We want to come across that way. That's the experience that we want other people to have of us. So that's the background inspiration behind collaborative confidence. Now, it's built on 3 pillars: activate, amplify, and accelerate. The activate pillar is about focusing in on your self-awareness, on your inner champion, boosting and building that inner champion inside of each one of you, your values, and your core strengths. Then the amplify pillar focuses in on your executive presence, showcasing your talents, your expertise, your achievements, and also spotlighting the talents and the achievements and the contributions of other women, right? It's that community aspect of amplifying other women. And then the accelerate pillar focuses in on that organizations as a whole also have a responsibility when it comes to leveraging and empowering women leaders. There's a responsibilities organizations have to create human-centric cultures where women and everyone can really thrive. And that might happen through a variety of means, such as offering sponsorships, offering equal pay, flexible work environments, and addressing real personal issues like burnout, having difficult jobs or burning out and having too taxing of a work environment. Now today, we're going to focus in on one aspect, which is the Amplify pillar. Okay? And the Amplify pillar is about amplifying yourself and amplifying other women. So with that as a context in the background, let's talk a little bit, and I do mean talks. I'd love to hear from all of you or any of you. So let's consider the relationship of confidence and women. I think it's a really interesting and fascinating and complex relationship. When I think of myself and I think about my own relationship to my confidence over my lifetime and today, it's an interesting relationship. And there are times where I feel confident, and there are times where I don't feel so sure of myself. So let me pose a question to you, and then I'm going to give you a moment to think while I tell a couple of stories, and let's chime in with your thoughts to this question. Why do you suppose women sometimes, and sometimes is a purposeful word, why do you think women sometimes struggle with their confidence? Why do we not always feel and exude the kind of confidence we really wish to? So while you muddle on that for a moment, a couple of stories that illustrates this complex relationship between women and confidence. One of the things that I do as an executive coach is I facilitate women's circles. And it's pretty common that in the circles that I facilitate, at some point, the women will talk about that they don't feel so confident, that they question themselves, that they doubt themselves. And these women are just like I know who you are. These are women who are at the top of their game. They are running departments, they're running organizations, they've faced adversity, they've taken risks, they've had accolades, they've made achievements. And yet they will admit to each other like, oh, I just don't feel so confident. I feel self-doubt, right? Then another example is a CFO that I was coaching of a financial institution. And at this financial institution, half the organization reported up to her. Right? She was considered second in charge. She reported right to the CEO. So when he was on vacation or gone, she was the one who was in charge of the organization. And despite all of that, I'm sure you can imagine the expertise she has based on that description. She also doubted herself. It would come up in our coaching sessions that she would wonder if she was really capable of whatever was on her plate at the moment. So now let's hear from you. Going back to the question that I posed, how come women, and I'm a work in progress too, so I include myself in this question as well. How come we sometimes struggle with our confidence? And I see Vanessa has a microphone. We can pass it around. Why do we struggle with our confidence sometimes? Okay, wonderful.
So, yes, hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette Pugh, also a Pepperdine alum. And I would speak to my own personal experience, but I think the research also backs up that a lot of our level of confidence depends on how we're socialized and how we maybe have been conditioned, even starting very, very early on in life. For me personally, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, to a family of, I'm a first-generation college graduate, and grew up surrounded by poor housing conditions in Newark. My father worked in housing, and because of my love of math and science, which back then and even now still, I don't think it's necessarily encouraged in certain circles for young girls to pursue engineering or, their love of math and science. But because of my love of math and science, I would tag on to my father's coattails as he would go visit different housing projects in Newark, where every day I saw, as a young girl, conditions that were deplorable. Luckily, we lived in an area that was, we had our own single-family home and would have, by all standards, been considered, lucky, I guess. But certainly throughout elementary school, I was teased by other kids in the neighborhood for being, the one that was into math and science. And even though I graduated as valedictorian from both elementary school and high school, where I was bussed out of Newark to attend a private high school, I, even in high school, graduating as valedictorian, the various individuals in my life at that time, even my guidance counselor, suggested that I apply to schools that weren't necessarily, the Ivy Leagues, where I wound up going to Princeton University.
Good for you. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, didn't want to go into too much of a spiel there, but I just think that ultimately it comes down to how we're socialized and conditioned, and it may cause people to question their confidence levels.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
How we're brought up, socialization, the messages we get. Absolutely, Jeanette. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Let's see, who else has some thoughts on why we sometimes struggle with our confidence?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn, and I think that as women, we set really high expectations for ourselves to be the best mom, wife, friend, employee,
Yes.
so on, community member, and understandably, sometimes we're not able to do that, and then that's a hit to our confidence when we can't measure up to our own expectations, let alone the expectations of everyone around us. But we, I think, sometimes set ourselves up, unfortunately, because we believe we must be all of this.
Exactly. We must be the best. We must absolutely. And that's a hard measure to stand up to, especially consistently.
Right. And I was just going to say, we don't know how to practice self-compassion around that.
Absolutely.
So we're very hard on ourselves.
Right. So much more compassionate with other people, right? But when we look at ourselves, there's like no room for compassion. And again, I'm a work in progress. I'm saying that to myself just as much as I'm offering up the idea to all of you. Excellent. Excellent. Any other thoughts on why we sometimes struggle with our confidence?
I know for me, I am in technology spaces a lot, and it's all dudes.
Yes.
And in spaces like this, we're like, we're seeing each other, like literally making eye contact, or like elevating, or being like, oh, I see you raising your hand, and we're like always trying to build each other up as women, as sisters.
Yeah.
But in those spaces, it feels very lonely.
Yes.
And talked over. I had a day yesterday, can you tell? So I'm so glad to be here with all of you in this empowering, rejuvenating space. But I mean, when you're the only lady in the room, there's some dynamics that are happening there, and it feels lonely, and you're definitely aware that other people may not be having confidence in me, and I'm using like a repertoire of skills that are not becoming of me. That aren't, I literally found myself yesterday in a Zoom winking at a dude to try to get him to like go along with the plan. And I'm like, no, can you just respect me? So I think, it's not, in addition to our upbringing and socialization and all of that, it's where we are currently, and the spaces we find ourselves in, which requires to be more resilient. Yeah.
Yes, the spaces we find ourselves in, and having to navigate that, especially in a male-dominated environment where you're the only one or you're one of the very, very few. We had another idea over here.
Right now, all of these kind of experiences, I think I want to mention two things. Just when I'm more observant of the other, also males, I realize that's a kind of high achiever's dilemma. Really, I recognize I'm high achiever. I have to kind of reframe myself. Okay, you choose what's the definition of achievement for yourself, because of socialization that mentioned being raised in a male-dominated, family or community. Always, I was an observant of other success.
Oh, okay.
And I imitated that kind of. I was good at math and science, but that gave me much more confidence. Even I was ahead of men, because wherever I went, when I was at math, everybody was looking at me. I think that was a big kind of gave me confidence.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Right now, I think with all mentioned, fulfilling others' expectations and being less compassionate for myself.
Yeah.
This is a kind of, and also lacking collaboration.
Oh, okay.
When I watch other men are really good at delegating, collaborating, and I'm so interested in your topic, because the gap that I feel, I think I need collaborative confidence.
Wonderful.
I can delegate. I want to do everything myself.
Yes, and that, yes, we do want to do, because we want to do everything. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, and we can't always do everything. Let's take one more. Yes, please. Love to hear your idea.
Okay, I'm Beverly, and I used to work at IBM, which, I think it was very male-dominated in those days. I was one of the few women. And but I also grew up at a time with a family that gave me the confidence that I needed to do whatever I want. Remember in the 60s, we are women, we're the same, men and women are the same, it's just society that makes us different. That's what we were raised with. So I went to business school, I was working at this company, and I saw that men were kind of hierarchical this way, and women were more relational.
Yes.
And so, but I just dealt with it. You just do the best you can, and I didn't feel. I guess I felt equal because I was raised in that environment. Where I can do anything a man can do, and so anyway, that was how I dealt with working.
That's a very effective way to deal with it and to navigate that. Yes, and the belief that you can do everything and anything you want. I was also told I could do anything I wanted. I was also very strongly influenced about being a people pleaser. So that's kind of a how do you navigate? Oh, you can be and do anything, but just make sure that everybody's pleased along the way. Yes, let's. I'm sorry. You wanted to chime in with a comment? Please.
It's great that we have these kinds of situations, but I think a lot of times we are our own worst enemy as women.
Yes.
And like that poem that Maya Angelou has about Phenomenal Woman. I think this has been an ongoing conversation that women have had for a very long time, and I think having raised boys and stuff, boys learn how to work as a team. They learn from a very young age that their success the team's success is their success.
Yes, yes.
And I think as women, growing up, it's changing now. But in my generation, you were either a dancer or a tennis player or a gymnast. It was always a very individual thing. And this, I don't know, it's almost ingrained that in order to be successful, you have to knock somebody else down.
Oh,
and
okay.
I just feel like, it's great that we're having these conversations now, but there's still so much work that needs to be done, because a lot of times as a woman is rising up, it's other women that are knocking them down. And that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Yes, there are those men that just kind of their way of controlling you is to put their thumb on you. But then, it's sometimes like there's like that barrier where that Maya Angelou's poem is talking about. Like, if you see a woman going by, you see her rising up, you should see that as a success for all women.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
yes.
so,
absolutely. Right.
That's one of me. There goes another one like me.
Exactly.
And
we are one.
And we need to talk about that more as women. Instead of saying it's her instead of me, why isn't it all of us.
Exactly. It's us. It's us. And that brings in another aspect of the notion of collaborative confidence, is that I wanted to also change the narrative of women competing with women, and it's about the collaboration. It's the generative, enduring relationship. It's about abundance. So that's another underlying theme or meaning of collaborative confidence. So to begin to boost our confidence, there's a starting point that I believe we need to do first, and that is eliminating or at least reducing what I like to call micro-diminishments. Micro-diminishments are those small behaviors, sometimes they're large, but small behaviors that we as women, and again, I'm a work in progress, I have done and probably still do some of these up here on the slide myself. These are those behaviors that erode our confidence. When we engage in micro-diminishing behaviors, it erodes how we feel about ourselves inside of ourselves, and it telegraphs to other people that we are not feeling as confident as we could feel. So let me give you some examples of micro-diminishments, and as I'm talking about these examples, I bet other examples will come to your mind. So please let's share other micro-diminishing types of behaviors that you can also recognize either in yourself or you've seen other women engage in. So making yourself physically small. I was at a professional event, kind of similar to this event, of a number of different people, and there was a woman who got up to make an announcement, and she stood up, and I'll try to mimic her body language as best I can. So she stood up to make an announcement, and she crossed one arm, like this, it's hard to do with a microphone, but she crossed one arm across like this, and then with the other arm, she was holding her phone that had the announcement. So, she needed to see what she was going to say. So she was like this, and then she took one leg and crossed it over the other, so now her ankles are crossed. So it's like she's teetering, and if there were a wall close behind me, she leaned up against the back of the wall. And she stood there and made the announcement like this. And I have seen women, and I have done it myself, sitting in my chair or I'm as small as possible. I've seen even newscasters on TV, when they have a wide shot, I've seen women stand there with one leg crossed over the other. So making yourself physically small is a micro-diminishment, as opposed to using your space. And using your space doesn't always mean being big and grand. It can also just be comfortable and sure of yourself, right? Physicality that emanates sureness. Minimizing language. I was at another professional event, and we were going around the room making introductions. A man stood up to introduce himself, and in introducing himself, he said that he had been named by a magazine as one of the top 100 professionals in his profession. Continued to go around the room, and a few minutes later, a woman stood up. She introduced herself, and she said she also had been named to the very same list of the top 100 professionals in her profession. And then under her breath, almost like a whisper, she said, "I don't know why." Yes, thank you. I reacted the same way. I about fell off my chair. I could not believe that she added that extra language that was not necessary, minimizing language, where we downgrade ourselves. Sitting at the perimeter of the room instead of at the table. So in a work situation, going into the conference room and sitting around a chair that's at the side rather than taking a chair that is at the table itself. It's another way of making yourself somewhat invisible, if not really invisible, because you're just not so noticed because you're around the perimeter of the room. Now, I've been thinking about this one in terms of the virtual space, because we've all been on the virtual space so much in the last 2-3 years, and we will continue to be in the virtual space. I think the equivalent of that is having your camera situated in such a way that it's like cutting off part of your face or right under your chin. Personally, this is my own opinion. Also having your video off. And I know that there are times when that's necessary, but I also think that if you can have your video on, it's a way to be visible. Right? Giving credit to other people at the expense of your own. What this sounds like is, oh, the credit goes to my team. They did such a great job. If it weren't for them, it wouldn't have gotten done. Oh, my colleague, it was all about what my colleague did. And my colleague, they crossed it over the finish line. So you're giving credit to other people at your own expense. Now, I will also say that I think as women generally, we are really good at recognizing contributions and giving appreciation to other people. And I think that is a wonderful trait. And I really appreciate that trait. I think that trait should be more characteristic of more people in the world to express appreciation and acknowledgement to other people. I think for women, when it becomes a micro-diminishment, that's when they give the credit to everybody else and they leave themselves out of the equation. That's when it becomes a micro-diminishment. And on the next slide, I'll give you an example that will give you an alternative to giving all the credit to someone else and not including yourself. Eliminating words like just and little. I just have a little question. Do you just have a little more time? I have a little thought about that. Eliminating those just, little, those types of words. And then eliminating phrases such as, does that make sense? So you've just explained something, you've just provided some information about something, and then at the end, adding in, does that make sense? As if what you just said did not make sense. As if it wasn't clear, articulate, informative, what have you. Does that make sense? On the next slide, again, I'll give you an alternative to, does that make sense? Again, I know I'm guilty of all of these. You've probably already heard me use the words little and just already. I try to reduce these to eliminate micro-diminishing behaviors. I want to learn from all of you, and you could probably just shout it out. I'll repeat it in the microphone. But yeah, who's got another example of a micro-diminishing behavior we can all learn from? Apologizing too much. Yes, apologizing too much. Absolutely. And then in email, apologizing and putting an exclamation point, maybe 2 or 3 after I'm sorry, right? We apologize too much. Absolutely. Other micro-diminishing behaviors that came to your mind? Phrasing a statement as a question. Yes, absolutely. Just make it a statement. Do you think we should send the sales team to Palm Springs for a retreat? I think we should send the sales team to Palm Springs for a retreat. Make it a statement, absolutely. What else is bubbling up for you in terms of a micro-diminishment? I know another one for me that I had to learn, and I've had to learn all of these, but another one is simply saying thank you when someone gives me a compliment. Instead of saying, oh, there was no big deal, or, oh, well, thank you, or, minimizing the compliment that someone has given me, whether it's my work or something about myself. So the next time someone compliments you for anything, just say thank you. And if that feels a little too curt and a little too short, then add on, that really means a lot to me. Or I appreciate you noticing. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Don't add on, it was no big deal, or this whole thing, I've had this in my closet for 20 years. Don't need to add on those extra comments. All right, so we're going to eliminate and reduce our micro-diminishments. Now that we've done that, let's look at how we boost our confidence. Oh, let's see here. There we go. Strategies to boost your confidence. Short sounds confident. And I don't mean short in terms of your stature, your physical stature. I mean short in terms of brevity, of succinctness. Generally, when you're able to convey a message in email or verbally succinctly, it comes across as more confident. So short sounds confident. Speak up in meetings. Make yourself visible. Now, I have coached women who have often said, but I don't have an opinion. I don't want to speak up in a meeting just for the sake of speaking up. I absolutely 100% agree. If you're going to speak up in a meeting, speak up in a way that adds value, that contributes to the meeting, that just isn't taking up airtime. So let's look at some alternatives. If you don't happen to have an opinion, how else might you speak up at a meeting? You could absolutely ask a question. And even if you believe you know the answer to the question, it's likely other people in the room are wondering the same thing. So it's helpful to ask the question because it ends up clarifying it or confirming it for you, and you're helping other people in their understanding. So ask a question during meetings. Another way to contribute and to speak up during meetings is to connect what two different people have said. That might sound like, Sally, what you just said sounds really similar to what Barbara just said. Am I hearing you right? So you're connecting what's happening in the conversation, the dynamic, and that really adds to the robustness and the richness of the conversation. Very helpful to do. The flip side of that is the opposite, to say, Sally, what I heard you say sounds different than what Barbara said. Am I hearing you correctly? So again, you're clarifying things. You're adding to the dynamic and the understanding of the conversation by asking, am I hearing a difference of opinion here? And let's make sure we all get on the same page. So those are some other ways to speak up in meetings when you don't happen to have an opinion. Incorporate your expertise into your everyday language. Let me offer you an example of what this can look like. So I have a friend, a colleague, who works for Cigna Healthcare, and she's a general in-house counsel for Cigna. And when needed, she doesn't do this, believe me, in every conversation because it would be too much. But when needed, she will say things along the lines of, well, in the hundreds of contracts I have reviewed over the years, my recommendation is ... So she's incorporating her expertise. Or in the cases I have litigated, our position is really strong. So she's giving her expertise within her response. So you can incorporate your expertise as you respond. So on the previous slide, I promised you that I would give you an alternative to, does that make sense? Here's your alternative. Let me pause to hear your thoughts. So you've just given an explanation, provided information, conveyed something, and you pause and you say, let me pause to hear your thoughts. That gives the other person or the party an opportunity to digest what you've said and to see if they have any questions or need anything clarified, rather than, does that make sense? And then taking and giving credit. And on the other slide, we talked about how we as women, we are so wonderful about giving appreciation to other people and recognizing other people's contributions. A way to take credit for yourself and still give credit to the other party would be to say something such as, my team did a great job. I am so proud to be the leader of this team. So you're still acknowledging the team and you're incorporating yourself as the leader of the team. Or I get great fulfillment out of leading this really strong team. You're establishing yourself and you're giving credit to the team. Another way to amplify your confidence is a visual anchor, and I brought an example of a visual anchor that I have. I often will have something on my desk in view that I can see either throughout the course of the day or when I'm on a Zoom meeting that reminds me of the capable, confident woman that I am. One of the things that I have on my desk is this little statue. I can pass it around too so people can see, but she's a dancer. And if you can see from a distance, and I'll pass her around, but she's standing very proudly. She's got her shoulders back. She's got one foot forward. She has her chin lifted. And she's just as strong and proud. And she is my visual anchor. And she sits on my desk all the time as a visual anchor to remind me that I am also her. And you are also all of her. So I'll pass this around if people would like to see that. So other examples of visual anchors can be a color that you wear or a piece of clothing that means something to you. Another visual anchor that I have, and it's more of a remembering because it's not the earrings I'm wearing today, but I have a pair of Wonder Woman earrings. And it's her crown, and they are my favorite pair of earrings. And I know that I'm wearing them. I may not always be able to see them, but I know I'm wearing my Wonder Woman earrings. And that's another way for me to use a visual anchor. So again, I want to hear from all of you. As I said, there's so much more wisdom in the room than the wisdom that happens to be up on this platform. So what are some other ideas that come to your mind of strategies to amplify your confidence? And again, you can just shout them out and I'll repeat them.
I love to do that superhero.
Yes, the power pose, the superhero pose.
Oh my gosh, I can just like stand in this.
Yes,
And
yes.
then get back in my seat, and then I still feel the remnants of what happens in the soma in my body.
Yes, absolutely. Our bodies are an instrument, and we can use our bodies to create confidence, to take up space, to create energy within ourselves. Absolutely. Here and then over here too. Yes.
Good morning. I have an idea. I think it's posture and how you walk and
Yes.
how you move your body, the pace at which you move your body and how you move your body. That can
Exactly.
also boost confidence.
Yes, how you walk, how you move your body, absolutely. And I think we'll take one more over here. And if I can also did you raise your hand as well? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. But behind the woman they're in the jacket. Oh, you wear your heels. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I absolutely agree. Yes. I'm also tall. Yes. And I'm not wearing them today, but I have red heels. And those heels in particular, they just do something for me. You know? They just do. Power shoes. That's right. Those power shoes. Yes. 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 Eye contact. Yes. Exactly. Yes, a strong handshake, a comfortable handshake, absolutely. Great. So there's paper and pens at your desk, at your table. So please write down at least one confidence amplifying behavior that you are going to commit to. And it might be one up on the slide, it might be one that you've heard, it might be one that came to your mind. Okay, it looks like people have at least one written down. Great. And I love that we shared and we learned also from each other and got some new ones today as well. So up to this point, we have looked at one aspect of collaborative confidence, which is around boosting your own confidence. And as you recall, the definition of collaborative confidence is I am responsible for my own confidence and I'm responsible for helping other women with their confidence. So we're going to flip the coin over and focus on amplifying other women. All right, and we're going to begin with a story about amplifying other women. And this comes out of the Obama White House, and specifically the first term. So in his first term of office, the vast majority of Obama's aides and cabinet members were men. And the women, and maybe this will resonate with all of you, I imagine it may. So the women who were just as talented, had just as much expertise and knowledge, etc., the women were having a hard time getting their voice in during meetings. Anybody can relate to that? I know I can. Yeah, they were being talked on top of, they were being interrupted. A woman would give an idea, and a few minutes later, a man would give the same idea, and suddenly his was his idea. Yes, yes, am I getting some yes? Yes, absolutely. So it's relatable. We know what this experience is. So these women did something that I think it's just absolutely brilliant. They got together behind the scenes, and they came up with something that they called amplification. And yes, I absolutely admit that amplification for me was the inspiration of the Amplify pillar of my book. So they came up with amplification. And what that looked like is that in meetings, if a woman said something, another woman would repeat it. Yes, yes, some snapping in the background, absolutely. Another woman would repeat what one woman said. If a woman gave an idea, a suggestion, a recommendation, another woman made sure to give credit back to her for that recommendation, that idea. So they were amplifying each other, and they did it repeatedly. They did it routinely. Here's where the story really gets interesting. Over time, Obama noticed. And he changed his own behavior. He started calling on women in meetings. He started making sure that their opinion, their voice, their presence was noticeable and it was heard. And not only that, but also over time, he started, at least for certain meetings, he started widening the circle of who was invited. So for certain meetings, he started including junior aides. So people who would normally not be a part of a meeting or conversation were now included. So it was helping them professionally, and it was diversifying the conversation, right? Because it's a wider audience. The net had been cast wider. So that's what the women did in terms of amplification, how they amplified each other. And this story illustrates, I think, that amplifying someone else is fairly easy to do, right? The threshold is not that difficult to repeat what someone else has said or to give credit. Not only is it relatively easy to do, but the story also shows how something that's so simple can have really profound effects. It changed the system. It changed the lead, in this case Obama, it changed the leader's behavior. Then if we fast forward to his second administration had much greater gender parity among the top aides and high-level leaders, and then half of the federal departments were run by women, including the National Security Council and the Office of Legislative Affairs. So we can see that the seed of amplification perhaps influenced then what the second administration looked like. With that, now let's look at some amplification strategies, some ways that you can amplify other women. And again, let's add to the conversation. I want to hear your ideas. We all want to hear each other's ideas, so we have a plethora of ways to amplify each other. So +1 events. When you're invited to a +1 event, maybe it's the company golf tournament or a philanthropic event or a conference or whatever, a meeting, and you can bring a guest, a +1, consider bringing another woman as your +1 rather than if you have a partner. Perhaps bring a woman. Look around your network, look around your company, look around your department, and think of another woman who could benefit by attending the event and you'd also enjoy her company. So bring a woman to one of your +1 events. It does a few things. It amplifies her presence because it's telegraphing to other people of her value, of her worth, of her importance. It also will expose her to more people and more situations, so it helps her personally and professionally. So consider +1 events as an opportunity to amplify another woman. Bring another woman to meetings. Maybe it's the board meeting. Maybe it's a cross-functional team meeting. Think about bringing another woman who, again, would benefit from being there. She would learn. She would grow her network. She'd be exposed to more people. More people would see her. And again, it telegraphs of her worth and her contributions. Sharing the spotlight with another woman. This can look in a variety of different ways. If, for instance, you're a speaker, and maybe you speak regularly, when you're asked to speak again, maybe you can recommend another woman to speak rather than you. Okay? Or if you're asked to be on a panel, think about recommending another woman be on the panel with you. Those are a couple of ways that you can spotlight another woman and amplify her. You could also recommend a woman for an award or some type of accolade. That's another way to spotlight another woman. Or when someone new is hired into your organization or transferred into your organization, especially if the person is a leader, when you talk to that person, talk up the other women in your environment, talk up the other women in your department. That's another way to spotlight women and amplify them. And then another way to amplify another woman is through public appreciation, whether that's in meetings or one-on-one or by sending an email. But look for opportunities to express appreciation for another woman, for a contribution she has made, a difference she has made, the achievement she has made. So think about different ways that you can publicly recognize other women. So again, I want to open up the conversation. I'm sure that there are things that are bubbling up for you in terms of how to amplify other women. So what are your ideas? Yes?
I have a friend.
Here we We have a microphone coming over. I'm making Vanessa really work. So, yes.
I have a friend who's very well known in her sphere and often invites other women to events that she has. But what I love about her is how she introduces you to her sphere, people in her sphere, and not just saying, oh, this is April. This is April. She has her doctorate in, da-da-da-da. She runs, da-da-da-da. So it doesn't put you on the spot to where you have to explain who you are and what you do. You have someone amplifying you, letting others know what you do and why you are now a part of the circle.
Wonderful. I love that. And she's weaving in your expertise, and as she does that, that's beautiful. I think Lila, I think Lila had a thought here.
So if a woman joins an organization and you've been there for a while, you could help share your expertise and knowledge of the organization, or if they're leading a project and you have knowledge of that, just, help them to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, acknowledge what they're doing, what they're leading, what they're responsible for. Absolutely. It's a great way to spread that good news, right? Yeah. Any other ideas to add to how we can amplify each other?
I will share. My father taught me to lead, even if you don't really know what you're doing, because half of the time the people that are with you don't. So we're all looking for someone to follow. And so if you see a woman leading, follow them. They're going to need your help. So
Absolutely.
You can both benefit from joining their bandwagon.
Absolutely, yes. Lead, follow a woman, and join her bandwagon. Absolutely, it's great. Yes, please. And
Along the same lines as the last two is mentorship, and not just with your peers or people coming in, but looking for opportunities to mentor younger women.
Yes, yes.
And that could look so many different ways,
Right.
but looking for those opportunities.
Right. We want to remember our younger selves, literally and figuratively, right? Literally, we want to remember our younger self that walks around inside of ourselves and take care of her, and we want to remember the younger women, the younger girls.
I'll give an example. I have two daughters. They're 19 and 22 now. But my 19-year-old, how she relates to my friends and who she enjoys spending time with are the women who talk to her and listen to her and show interest in her. And she will tell me who does that and who doesn't, and who kind of discounts her ideas or asks superficial questions or talks over her when she starts to give an answer. Yeah. And she's a Berkeley student. She has a lot to say. She's bright and brilliant, and still people will just dismiss her, and she's, and so they're diminishing her by not giving her that voice, and she feels it very strongly.
Oh, absolutely. That gets imprinted on a person. Right. Absolutely, yes. That's it's a great reminder not to overlook, but to acknowledge. I think we had a comment over here as well.
I have two, actually. I think one is just lavishing the praise on someone.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So as you give them a warm introduction, like April said, like a nice handoff. My plus one is my mom.
Hello, Mom. Yay,
I
Mom.
bring her to these talks exactly for the things you said, for exposure, to meet people, to, just widen her sphere of influence, to show the value that she's my best buddy in the whole world, and, and she has a lot to offer and a lot to say.
Yeah.
So I wrote those notes down. So just lavishing the love and extending the invitation. And then I would also say, because like you said, you might be a speaker or a trainer, and so I am. And so what we do, my sister and I, is anytime we are offered an invitation to speak somewhere, we're thinking of other small businesses, women-owned businesses, or micro businesses, where we can bring in their product, their service, or in some way extend and share the contract.
Oh, that's wonderful.
No matter the dollar amount of the contract, we still do that. So
That's a beautiful way of supporting the business, supporting the woman, and widening, the circle and network. Yes, and exposing the product, the service. Yes, fantastic. They might not know. Right, exactly. Wonderful. Yes, please.
Good morning. I'm Andrea Van Leeston, and I'm a +1 right here to my fabulous.
I love the +1s. Yes, yes.
+1 to my fabulous and creative sister, who taught me a lot. I always tell people, I hope I don't cry. Because it's her birthday, and I wanted to make sure.
Happy birthday, Rita. Oh.
And it's a big birthday, and She's probably going to kill me. She's going to be 80, and she's fabulous.
She's beautiful, beautiful in spirit. Yes.
She get mad, but she's fabulous.
Oh, happy
Make sure you
birthday.
see her and say happy birthday.
Oh, the honor to be with you.
I am a trust and estates attorney. I'm a 1978 Georgetown graduate. And people ask me all the time. So my sister here, who's this fabulous, always took me to the public library.
Oh.
And so I always
Yeah,
tell her,
yeah.
if it were not for you, I would not be fabulous. And I am ferocious. And so here's the other thing. If I have a weakness, I take my Apple Watch out, tell it has 10 minutes, I want to hear it, we fall apart, it's over, because I ask myself, how did I feel? What do I need to correct? If somebody slams me, and I just told you, give you perspective, Hillary Clinton was 2 years ahead of me. Just goes to show you the era. I went to Georgetown Law School, the head of the Watergate prosecutors, and let me tell you, I am short. I'm 5'1". I'm from California. I wore pink pants after September, and they said, who is this woman, right? Because that's that whole East Coast thing, and I'm like, I'm going to do my thing.
Yes.
But I want to tell you that every opportunity that somebody gives you a diss, whether you're a 19-year-old Berkeley student or a 22-year-old law student like I was, is a huge opportunity to re-spin it for yourself, always concentrating on being strong. And if you are a strong woman within yourself, it's easy to pass a compliment and to tell my sister she's fabulous. Without her, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story. Yes, let's show our love and appreciation. Thank you. Oh, and you're both fabulous, and we're so glad. And thank you for sharing that story, and happy birthday, Rita. Oh, she won't bring you next time. I know. Rita, you're an inspiration.
She is fabulous, and she's a retired educator. She's all that.
Yes. And thank you for bringing your sister to the library when you were younger. And what a beautiful story of the difference when we think of another person, when we reach out to another person, when we remember another person, whether she is our sister or a neighbor or a friend or a colleague. It's such a remarkable story of the difference, the imprint that can make. Thank you very much. Yeah. So let's look at some characteristics that really solidify amplification and really give it its teeth. One characteristic is seeing amplification as an investment. Just like a financial investment, you do it over and over and over again. You're committed to amplifying another woman. Going back to the Obama story, if the women in his White House only amplified each other a handful of times, it's doubtful to me that he would have picked up on it. So you want to invest in amplification, repeatedly committed over time. Another characteristic of amplifying women is to do it authentically. Do it from a place of genuineness. Don't look at it as a just check the box, okay, I'm done, I amplified her. People can see through when it's not authentic, when it's not genuine, and it just becomes an exercise and it loses any of its power. It never would have any power if it was just a check the box done inauthentically. And then the last characteristic of the amplification concept is it's based on mutual trust. That you trust another woman to amplify you, and she trusts you to amplify her, even when you're not in each other's presence. Even when you're absent from each other's presence. You have that trust, that bond in each other. So now we're going to take these ideas and turn them into action. So again, on your paper, I would like you to think of one woman, write down her name or her initials or something that reminds you of who that woman is, and pick one strategy that you are committed to doing to amplify her. And it might be one of the strategies you saw up on the slide. It might be a strategy you heard around the room in the conversation. It might be a strategy that you just thought of on your own. So take a moment, write down her name or initials, and write down one strategy. And then we're going to do a bit of sharing around the table. So we're going to open up to smaller conversation for a moment. So I invite you around your table, and if you're at a table on your own, please join another woman at another table. We have many seats open, and I know they will welcome you. And in your small table groups, share with each other the amplification strategy you're going to use. If you'd like to also share about the woman, absolutely please do. If you feel more comfortable keeping that private, that's of course at your discretion. But share about the amplification approach that you will use, and then we'll open the conversation up to the larger room. But around your table, let's start there. Sorry to interrupt these conversations that are going. I apologize. Sounds like there were some great conversations around the table, and I would love to hear some of the amplification stories or what came up at your tables. There's so much energy. Oh, we got a hand here in the back of the room, nice and strong.
Yes, I'm practicing my posture.
Yes, I love that.
I have a girlfriend, best friend from kindergarten who is an actress, and she recently left her job to pursue her acting career again at 50, and she's in a one-woman show, and I knew about it, and so I sent the information about the one-woman show to 20 of my women friends.
Fabulous.
And encouraged them all, and then tried to make it even more appealing by saying, we'll all go out to dinner afterwards. Like, I really tried to hook everybody so that they would all show up for her.
Yay!
And then also I get a nice night with all my girlfriends.
Wonderful.
So, so something like that.
Oh, that's fabulous. And how fun, too. That's a fun night out, a fun, enjoyable community. I love that. Exactly. That's wonderful. What are some other things that came around you? I'll just pass. Oh, no. Vanessa's got a mic there. Yes. Please share.
Oh, I'm so excited about this opportunity. Can you hear me? Yeah, actually my best friend, girlfriend, and also mentor, she has kind of pushed me to, get my MBA, get my, move forward. And now she's from Iran, and she's a university professor in Iran, and she has written articles, she has participated in UN conferences everywhere. Now she's visiting next week here, and I think how I can amplify her to really invite her to one of the Pepperdine, this kind of
excellent
gatherings to give, because of I think all of you know how the issue of women is really hot in the news.
Yes.
Now she is coming, and I want her to give a fresh perspective, because she has worked on women's, studies, women leadership, and she is still teaching and consulting like the head of the leaders.
Yes.
So that's kind of my contribution. I'm gonna, and she was put together human research conferences in Iran, international. She invited me to speak virtually. She also invited Dean Williams. She was one of her speakers. Farzin Majidi was one of the speakers. Now I think she's here in person.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm invite her.
Yes.
So now, Vanessa, amplify my request, please.
There she is. We have it on. Yes.
Dr. Nasrin Jazali, everybody, Dean William Farzin, everybody know her. She's going to be here.
Perfect timing. Perfect opportunity. Perfect timing. I love it. That's great. That's great. That's great. What else came up around your tables? Other ideas, insights? Yes, please.
I wanted to share insights. So we actually realized that not only do we need to amplify our women colleagues, friends, and family, but also to acknowledge that there's also an ageism issue. And so we kind of talked about how you're either too young or you're too old, and just to bring relevance to any age and any woman's ideas.
Yes. Right, absolutely. That's a wonderful point. Thank you for bringing that into the conversation and raising our awareness around that. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Is there another one?
She's going to put me on the spot. My daughter just put me on the spot, so I'm going to go. I amplify a young lady, and she's only 92.
Oh.
And she's very spunky. She cooks for herself. She loves to do everything for herself, and she will thank you. But what I admire about her is her spunkiness. She don't tell you she can't do this. She always say, me and Jesus is going for a walk, or me and this one is going for a walk. But it's always Jesus first and her going for a walk. And I really enjoy being around her because she has such positiveness, She say, I know I'm old, but that don't mean that I can't do things.
Exactly.
And that's what happens, that as our parents, our friends get older, they feel that they're being cut off from the world because they're not getting involved in things, but we have to involve them because they have so much to share with us. And some of the stories they have to share with us, we will never know if we don't speak to them.
Right.
So that's one of the things I did, And
Yes.
she was so happy. She's so happy that she wants me to come back.
Oh, wonderful.
I just got home. I'm like, oh my God. She said, when are you coming back? I said, and spontaneously, she asked me that yesterday, and I said, next month. And I told my daughter, I said, I don't know what make me say that. But I did. I said, next month. And I'm like, anyway, she's one person that.
Wonderful, wonderful, yes. And a great example of just speaking to someone, just being in conversation is a way to amplify them because you're recognizing them, right? Yeah. Well, I have so enjoyed our conversation, and thank you so much for being a part of the conversation throughout our entire time. I also want to share with you that if you got value from today, if you learned from today and you want to learn more, I just wrote a book. It is on Amazon. Yes, my first book. It is on Amazon. It's called Collaborative Confidence, and if you want to learn more, you can learn more there on the book, and happy to also speak with any and all of you today and going forward. We started out this morning saying it is a blessing to be here. And it really is a blessing to be here. So thank you so much for blessing me and for blessing also each other and blessing this community through our conversation. As we wrap up, you're about to receive a pen. We're going to pass those out. Vanessa and her team are passing out these pens. I want to say just a bit about the pens. They have a diamond, or what looks like a diamond. I wish it really was a diamond. I might not pass them out if they were diamonds. So diamonds are very unique element. They are incredibly strong, and they are incredibly exquisite. And every time you see your pen and you use your pen, remember that you are incredibly strong and you are incredibly exquisite. Thank you.